Gab, let's start, shall we, with something that looks to be resolved a lot quicker. Donny van de Beek going to Manchester United.
Yeah, this had been, he'd been on the market, obviously, for some time. Didn't leave a year ago when many thought he would. Stuck around another season. Had, I think, a relatively productive season for Ajax. Reports coming out saying that this is very, very close to United. You may be wondering, why do United need another attacking midfielder when with Pogba and Bruno Fernandes, you figure they already have that creativity there. I think the answer would probably be that, you need that additional depth, you need that additional creativity, and it's not going to hurt. And I think they like the price. So reportedly this deal, very, very close.
Makes sense to you, Craig?
Yeah, because we've sat and talked about Liverpool increasing their bench. I'm not saying Donny van de Beek's going to be on the bench every week, but as Gab pointed out, competition for places at United could be stern. City strong bench, Liverpool strengthened their bench, which was a big problem for them when they were off the pace. Chelsea clearly going to have a strong bench this year with all the signings, particularly in the attacking areas. So United are going to need that. They're going to need, a good 20 players to rely on. He can do a bit of everything. He's box to box. He can do some defensive duties as well, but he's primarily an attacking player. But he's young as well, and as Gab said, 45 million is a lot of money, but in today's crazy football market, it's probably an average price. We've seen Ben Chilwell, 50 million as a left-back to Chelsea. So here we have a young international attacking player, under 50 million, and he's 23 years old. So absolutely makes sense.
Ali, I know when we've talked about this player in the past, you're a big fan.
I am, and I like Donny van de Beek. I think he gives you a lot of flexibility out of the midfield. I think he's a player that has a lot of talent with the ball at his feet, that gives you a lot of work and a lot of energy. And we're talking about depth and the possibility of him being a guy that could come off the bench or may start. Well, here's the thing. We know for certain that Paul Pogba has had a history of injuries over the last couple of seasons. And so whether he's coming off the bench or he's starting alongside Bruno Fernandes, or maybe the three of them together, Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, and Donny van de Beek, I think he gives you a lot of options. And a guy that can defend, can do that work, but certainly also provides you a presence in the attacking 18-yard box. Van de Beek was one of the most sought-after players in last year's transfer market, and somehow it just kind of got diluted, and it didn't quite happen for him. And I think he may have wasted this past season in that he didn't really bank on what had been a very hot Champions League run for him and Ajax last year's edition, but still lands at Manchester United. I think it's a good deal for Manchester United, and it's a good deal for the player as well.
Let's continue then to focus on Manchester United, shall we, Gab? Thiago linked heavily to Liverpool over the last few weeks. However, Manchester United now apparently very much in the running for the Bayern Munich midfielder.
Yes, obviously people know the deal with Thiago. He's got a year left. Bayern figure, well, if you're not going to extend the contract, and I don't think he's happy to extend the contract on the terms that Bayern have talked about or that he thinks he can get from Bayern, they would look to cash in now. I think the difficulty is, from Bayern's perspective, generating interest, because already he's been linked to Liverpool quite strongly. And you want to create an auction, you want to move Liverpool along so that, Liverpool don't come in with a cut rate price, or maybe somebody leapfrogs ahead of them. And I think that's what they're trying to do with Manchester United here, hence the link. For me personally, while you can never have too many creative players, I kind of think that, if you're going to have Pogba and Van de Beek and Bruno Fernandes, even just playing two of those three, you probably want a strong anchor midfielder who can do the grunt defensive work, and that's not Thiago Alcantara. But again, it might be a price at which United says, hey, this is too good a deal to pass up.
Is this a needed addition for Manchester United? Is it necessary?
Well, if you're shipping out others, then you take Thiago in a heartbeat. But you look at the balance that they need in the middle of the park. They've got to do the digging role, they've got Fred, who can do a bit of everything. They got better last year. Nemanja Matic, who can't play a full season anymore, hasn't got the legs to get around because of his age. Got Scott McTominay, who's signed a new deal, but he's a good player, but he's not exactly Roy Keane. And they need somebody in there, I think, that can organise and can do a bit of everything. Can bite, can call people out, can be the leader on the field, and can see the whole picture. And, you know, maybe it's just the price. I don't know. Look, at the end of the day, if I was Thiago and those two clubs were interested, I'd go to Liverpool.
Right.
I'd go to Liverpool. And at the end of the day, you know, if Man United bid a little bit more than Liverpool, then Thiago still holds most of the cards, because you don't have to go anywhere unless you want to go. Now, it then becomes a game of bluff, but clearly he would be going into a club that's ready-made to go again in the Premier League, to go again in the Champions League, where United are trying to get back to that level. So I think United's a more difficult sell to the player at the moment.
Ali, are you surprised there aren't more clubs in for Thiago?
In some ways, yeah, because of what we saw from him in Champions League and particularly in the quarterfinals and on, we saw a guy that was truly dominant in the middle of midfield and gave Bayern Munich such a natural outlet coming out of the back and so comfortable with the ball at his feet and in tight spaces, how he gets the ball from one side to the other. And you can give him the ball and you know he's going to hold on to it and you know he's going to find the right pass. And so, yes, in some ways I am surprised that there aren't other teams involved in this. But in other ways I'm not, because it's not a sexy position that he plays. It's not the attacking player. It's not the guy who's going to score goals, and it's not a guy who's going to play center back and he's going to keep others from scoring. And so this position, by its own very nature, it's one that you think it's sort of an afterthought for teams. And so Thiago Alcantara is a good deal for Manchester United because of what's happening with his contract. And it's a good deal for Liverpool because of what's happening with his contract. But otherwise, I don't think they would be paying a whole bunch of money to get him.
Gab, what does this all mean regarding Jadon Sancho, of course, a player who's been linked heavily to United throughout the summer? The fact that they're looking elsewhere and looking to spend that big pot on maybe a couple of other players, does that suggest this isn't happening?
Well, look, Mark Ogden and Rob Dawson both reported, I think quite clearly, that United are still interested in Jadon Sancho, and they have a price they're willing to go to, and if it's not going to be this summer, they're confident that they'll get him next summer. You know, the guy plays a different position. He's young. He's English. He's still somebody that United will really, really want, and they'll still want him whether they get him now or whether they get him 12 months from now. I don't think they're giving up on him because they've been linked with Thiago Alcantara. And you know, the other thing to consider with Thiago as well is that, you know, his injury record hasn't been great. There's going to be issues with durability, and at his age, he will rightly be looking for a big payday. And this is a guy who's, you know, pushing 30, and in those circumstances, you ask yourself, to what degree does this fit with what Manchester United are trying to do?
No, I think the Jadon Sancho thing is more likely because, as Gab said, the way they're trying to go is a younger player. They're prepared to. They seem prepared to spend the money to make sure they're getting a player that is playing well now and playing for the future.
Right.
They've been reluctant to go down the short term. They went down the short term route with the loan signing of the guy that came in from China. His name escapes me. Igalo, the striker. But generally, when they're spending transfer fees, they're looking at guys that they think can get them, you know, for the next decade, or have a big sell-on value if they do really well. So they're looking at assets, and that's where that's why I think United will be, although Dortmund will try and play the game of bluff, I think eventually United will spend the money to get the player because they know they're going to get the best part of a decade out of this player.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.